Let's take a minute to look at a story you have coming on Sunday that looks at Governor Walker and some of the encounters he's had with protesters on the campaign trail. I know that you saw this, I think, in Philadelphia when you were with the governor. Is this sort of kind of a unique feature for him right now? That I can't imagine that Ben Carson's drawing lots of protesters as he travels the country.
Yeah, it's really part of Scott Walker's package that he gets protests. He's certainly, had a long history of that in Wisconsin. It's following him around. I was at an event in Cleveland the day after the debate, a well-known local deli in town where there were 60 protesters, mostly union protesters. They were organized, they had a megaphone, two of them were on stilts, they had signs, they were chanting. You could hear them inside the deli where all the reporters and TV cameras were talking to Scott Walker. There were 9 cops outside kind of cordoning off his exit so he could get away after the event. I don't think this necessarily phases him because he's, he had 100,000 protesters in Madison. He's used to that. But I think it's a little bit peculiar to his campaign, and I think, it's a double-edged sword. It kind of creates a little bit of a sense of anarchy where it happens around his campaign, but it also, he wears it as a badge of honor. I mean, it's really part of his identity. He actually brings up all the time in his speeches the 100,000 protesters in Madison. So he's not bashful about it, and I think they think it helps them in their messaging to Republican primary voters.
I mean, it seems in some respects to be sort of the ultimate kind of prop on the campaign trail, because you can say, look, the unions are still after me, the protesters are still there, because you can just point to the crowd at the back of the room or outside the building. It just seems to be a real unique, circumstance for the governor.
No, I think he likes talking about it. In fact, toward the end of the debate in Cleveland, in response to a question about God, he brought up the protesters, and he brought up the protesters by way of saying that this was a kind of a crucible for him to undergo, and also by way of arguing that his response to the protests he described as measured, and he was sort of touting that as an attribute of his, that he can handle this kind of adversity with an even keel.
All right, well, we'll look for that story Sunday, and thanks for joining us today, Craig.
It's a pleasure.